Elections are coming up.
It's lonely at the top.
All right. I'll call this meeting to order with this official gavel here. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. All alternates that are present can vote. We have a quorum, so any alternate can vote. So let me start off by reading the purpose statement of the Citizens Advisory Committee. The primary objective of the CAC is to ensure the capital maintenance and public transportation projects and programs approved by the voters during the November 2nd, 2004 and November 6th, 2012 elections were accomplished with PPRTA fund. This committee reports directly to the Board of Directors. Thank you. All right. Agenda. Project description. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions. All right, very good. Thank you. Public comment for periods not on the agenda. Any of the committee members themselves first? Anyone in the public, in the office, in the gallery, peanut gallery? Okay, seeing none. Approval of the minutes from a November 2nd regular meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So approved.
Any discussion, any changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. I guess I should ask, did anyone read them? Yeah. Aye.
Don't ask a question you can't stand the answer to.
True statement. Okay, financial reports. Bev?
Good afternoon, CAC.
Hello.
All right.
Good news, Bev, as she's known by the board.
Okay, so September, we received $8.6 million, which was $611,000 over the budget. So we're doing really well with almost $3.2 million over the year-to-date budget, or 4.8%. And the budget for next year is still $89 million, so the good news is it gives us some room to, when we amend the budget for next year, to increase the revenue and then have revenue carryover. So that's always very helpful because there's always more needs as time goes on. So on page 2 then, compared to last year, we were $778,000 over last year's actual September for the month, and we're almost $4.6 million year to date. Then the next few pages put the revenue into the financial statements at the top of page 3, and then the expenditures are just what we've received so far from the member governments. And any negative expenditures, for the most part, are cost share receipts from developers and others. So, are there any questions on the financials?
I have one if no one else does. On page 3, the RTA 1 summary there.
Yes.
So the 28% down in the bottom line of the carryover funding, that $37 million, is that 28%, that's the obligation rate for that entire list, or is that 28% representing the difference between budget and carryover?
The 28% represents how much they've spent out of the budget for those items. So that's spent to date just on those items, which starts at initial A-list projects up there at the Capitol. And that's all we have left. So the $37,651,000, that's the maximum that they can spend on these initial A-list projects. So.
Remaining A-list projects.
Yes.
From the original, from RTA 1.
Mm-hmm. And the $4,790,000 has not been allocated yet.
Right, that's the reserve amount, right?
Yeah, pretty
Or
much.
the pool that we
It's
call
the
it.
pool, but a lot of it came from reserve.
So it just seems like to me that That's just of the 2016 budget for RTA 1 funds.
No, it's all that there's left, because they don't get any more new funds,
Right.
so.
So it just seems like a low number, given that we're 2 years into RTA 2, and that obligation rate ought to be a little higher. They got a couple of big projects, Mark Shuffle,
Should be going faster now, or getting higher faster.
with Mark Shuffle South,
Mhm.
that area.
And Woodman Road's really under major construction, so those two are most of those budgets. If you look, Mark Shuffle's 26 million and Woodman's almost 15 million.
Yeah, okay, so now that invoices and work's underway, invoices start coming in,
And they're much larger.
Okay. Thank you, Beth.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Beth? All right, moving on. Capital renewal project revisions.
Right, so in September, you may all remember that the CAC discussed this topic and approved a recommendation to the board that's illustrated in Attachment A, and that was Chairman Jim Godfrey's his idea. So he put that forth, you all listened to it and recommended it. But the city and county wanted a chance to review this and come up with their own recommendation. And that is, Jennifer Irvin wrote up a memo, and it's the 4th page of this little portion of the packet. And she'll come up and talk about it now, and then you all can decide what you want to recommend to the board for how we change the total budgets for capital projects in the second A list.
Could you maybe just summarize for some of our new members that may not have been here at that meeting, some of the original concerns that we had and why we even having this discussion?
So the original, or the second A list for the second 10 years, it started out with estimates that were made in 2012. And each member government had projects based on how much was, in theory, their share of the revenue. And over time, of course, we're all the way almost into 2017, and there's going to be inflation and so on. And then some of the projects, they were just really estimated, and there wasn't enough planning or design to really come up with good estimates. So now it's time to get started, and they need to change some of these overall capital project budgets. So the total capital project, we're not just talking about the yearly allotment of funds. And so we have to have a way that they can do that. Now, at some point in the future, hopefully this won't happen. Hopefully it won't happen, but it could happen potentially, is that we get to a point where our estimates could exceed our revenues for the second 10 years. And I'll come up and give some warnings about that when that time comes. Right now, we're nowhere near that. So, but they have to have a way that you all review what a new project budget is based on either design or something that they've noticed has changed since the initial budget, and it might just all be inflation, and ask the CAC to recommend to the board approval of the new total budget. So this is an attempt to do that, a way to do that. In the first 10 years, there were about 1 million line item transfers back and forth between projects, and then back in the other projects that they took the money from. And we're kind of hoping we don't do as much of that. The capital project can go up without a line item transfer in that year, only to be line item transferred later back to the project or to something else. And hopefully this will be a more transparent way to do it. But
So it was the intent of my original proposal was to not overburden the member governments with submitting large amounts of detail for minor increases, but trying to scale it so that when we had large 20, 25, 50, sometimes 100% increase in project costs, that we got a reasonable explanation of what those project costs and why they were going up at that rate. And so that was the original intent. So let's hear what Jennifer has to say.
Good morning, or afternoon. I still think it's morning, apparently. Good morning, Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County Engineer. Just want to clarify, too, this is something that the county put together from my perspective, and for your consideration, kind of an alternate but similar thing. I've always felt that this issue is... You've never really, we've done line item transfers, and sometimes with those came budget increases. And I think the biggest issue is that it wasn't clear, from my perspective, and maybe this is different from yours, but from my perspective, it is not always has been clear when a line item transfer or when we're actually increasing the project budget. It's not like we kind of just gloss over that. And so I think from that perspective, you're not really clearly seeing that all the time. So from my perspective, that was the biggest issue. So I was concerned in some of the recommendations that that were put together at some point. I just wanted to make sure that, from my perspective, you had our input into at least my input into what we think how we should be addressing that. And I put in some background, but as you know, our project budgets were based upon best information. They're never going to be correct. We're going to be over and under. And we hopefully minimized the problem of not having enough money at the end by assuming a 75% our project costs were forecasted against 75% of the revenues, not the entire anticipated revenues. So hopefully we're addressing a lot of that in that way. So anyway, I put together a few bullets, and I'll just kind of talk through them. One of the big issues I see is that when a line item transfer is being proposed, we need to tell the CAC and the board and should explain the reason for the transfer and identify if that transfer increases that budget. So there may be a case where we've been allocating money to a project and maybe we need to move something ahead or behind. Maybe we're just moving money around within our budgets, but we're not increasing the project costs at that point. So I think that that's important for you to understand that we're just moving money around and not increasing a project budget. That may be similar. And when I say project budget, I'm talking about the original estimated project cost. So, and then during the budget or budget amendment process, we're allocating money as well. So we should identify whether those allocation of funds increases a project budget and provide an explanation for that increase at that point. Because sometimes how we move money around is again, we may be allocating for a project that has a total project budget of $16 million. We may be allocating those funds over several years' time. So you may not see that, or we may be increasing a project budget and we're not really telling you. So I think that that's an important thing to do.
You're increasing it for a given fiscal year, but not identifying the total project cost.
Yeah.
Whether it affects the total project.
Correct. So I think that that's happening too. So I think we need to be telling you if that is occurring. And then we just may have, like we did with the Colorado Avenue project recently, a case where we're just simply increasing a project budget and we're asking you to do that. And so that is an item that we should be asking for permission for. So we should, and we should be providing an appropriate explanation. It may be $100,000, it may be $10 million, but we should be providing justification as to why we're increasing that project budget. Another bullet I included is if there's an increase to the project budget that's identified as a joint project and we're handling these projects a little bit differently than last time, The increase should be explained, of course, and the funding split should remain as originally identified unless there's a compelling reason to do otherwise. What I recognize here is that even though we've apportioned a certain percentage that the member governments agreed to, we've apportioned a certain percentage to each member government, but also in accordance with that, we've done that for the joint projects. And so I think from my perspective, even though they're joint projects, they're projects that are done by the PPRTA. Each member sponsor shouldn't be, if they're a joint project, shouldn't be burdened with that because it is a joint project. But towards the end of the program, we may want to adjust that. And so at this point, like Beverly says, we're really not, quote unquote, in trouble or have any issues. I think we should keep that until there's a compelling reason to do otherwise. And in some cases, it may affect one entity more than another. And our goal here, I think, is just to get all the projects done, whether they're a county-sponsored project, a city-sponsored project, or a city of Manitou-sponsored project. We're all in this to be successful together, or we fail together. So I think that that's what I'm getting to there. The priority for capital funding allocation shall be towards named projects, and if the capital program budgets are increased, we should provide an explanation. This may be probably the most controversial one, but from my perspective, those named projects on the capital list are probably the most important projects. And so there are some projects that entities have that have a general name, for example, traffic signal upgrades. And while those are is important because they're on the project list, from a voter perspective, I think if you look at that versus a Woodman Union interchange, the Woodman Union interchange is probably the most important project because it's named, and you know what it is, and we've said what we've get it done. And then going to your point of how do we keep you updated, how do we do that very simply? One approach that I thought of, because the city and the county did it as we went towards the end of the capital program, is a similar format that we did towards the end of that capital program, where we prepare brief monthly, it's almost like a spreadsheet, a status. You get the quarterly reports, but there's a lot of text in there, and you can't really go to each project and say, where are we? I think it would be useful for us as well to just have a brief status of all the active projects, similar to that 2004 capital project summary, to provide a project status as well. At that point, we can kind of provide in the comments or somewhere in the column an early indication if we think that we're in a 30% design phase and we're anticipating we're having some issues with the budget. So we can indicate that, and hopefully if it's in one spreadsheet,
that was a useful document.
Yeah. And I think for us, most of the columns were static. We only really had to update a few things every month. For me, that was really easy. Some of the other member governments.
You're updating them in your other documents internally.
Yeah. So that's an easy way to do it for me. So, that is a recommendation. And then the last bullet, it's understood that there will be a need to adjust project budgets, but also to ensure that all the named capital projects are completed irrespective of the member governments. And so that's just really kind of a summary bullet point to say it doesn't matter who's in charge of it. These all need to get done. So that's something that I put together, again, I probably put it together in somewhat of a vacuum. I was going to try and send it out to other member governments to get their input on it. I didn't do that. I didn't really have a chance. We've been kind of busy lately, and but just wanted to provide that to you for your consideration.
So, let me just make a comment, Tom. Part of my recommendation that I put together in that slides that you've got was an attempt to avoid a situation where, and put our hands around the level of detail that the member governments provide, and try to, with the intent of avoiding a situation where they're coming in and asking for a request and they're not prepared with the amount of information or level of detail that we need in order to support a solid recommendation to the board, and thus the potential of delaying a project and delaying work on a project for another month while they come back with additional information. That was my thinking behind scaling the level of detail required by throwing in some kind of percentage increase. Of 5% of a $10 million project, okay, no big deal. 50% of a $10 million project's another whole, or 100% is another whole story. And so there's a different level of information that I feel like I would need. And again, my 21 years as a budget analyst and comptroller are coming out here, but the decision-making and the information we need to make a recommendation is different depending on the amount of increase relative to the original cost of the project. So that was the rationale behind the scaling. While I think Jennifer's comments are all good, what's not addressed is what would be a level of detail, and we still haven't addressed that, where a member government could come in requesting an increase in the cost of a project, and they're not prepared to address our questions because they didn't prepare. And that's a gut call. I think they know what that might be, but I was attempting to quantify it, and that was my point. So
I get, just comment on it, I get that, and I think that those are good guidelines, but I think it's incumbent upon us, if we're asking for more money, whether it's $1 or $10 million, that we should be coming to you ready with that information. And if we're not doing that, then we need to expect that there may be delays.
Okay.
So that's my opinion on that. But maybe it is good to have just those general guidelines, but, we may choose to give you a full-blown report, kind of your quote-unquote full-blown report, even if it's $100. You know what I mean? So I don't know. My personal opinion is I put that burden upon myself, and if I come to you not ready, then shame on me.
okay, Tom.
I think that the two of you are sort of answering different questions. I think what you're talking about here is a project cost increase, and that was the focus of what you presented. And I think Jennifer opened up by saying we need to definitize whether it's just a transfer of money for a reprioritization or whether it's a true cost increase. I think we need the specific steps that you talk about in here, at trigger levels, if you will, for the level of detail that we need to come back. We answer to other people beyond ourselves here. And if we feel uncomfortable with the level of detail and can't make a decision based on that, then we've wasted a lot of time. And as you say, another 30 days rolls down the track. I think Jennifer's points are very, very solid, that member governments need to come in and tell us whether this is in fact a cost increase or whether it is simply a reprioritization. We're moving money over there because this one we're ready for and this one we're not, much like we had with Beacon Light Road in Colorado. So I agree with you. The specificity that you have in your level of detail here deals with cost increases, and that's really what the crux of what we were after.
Yeah, and reality is that, as you said, they've got a funding profile for a project that often extends over multiple or more than one fiscal year, and things happen that they need to shift things forward or backwards because of one thing or another, land use issues or funding or availability or whatever the case is, and they need to move it from one fiscal year to the other. And so in the year they need to move, they need to speed up another project or slow down another one. So that generates those line item transfers between projects. But I think she brings a really good point, is that if any of those are project total cost increases, that's the key trigger. Moving it from year to year is a management issue that they have. It's not ours. It's the total cost project, total project cost increases that we should be concerned with. Brian?
Yeah, I actually, I agree with Tom and Jim. I see these two proposals in this document as complementary. I really like what Jennifer had to say and the detail that she went into for what she believes is reasonable for us to expect, which is nice, because that kind of puts everything out there. And then kind of what Jim has put together in detail regarding, what are the trip levels that we should be expecting. I probably shouldn't use trip levels because that's for something else. But the trigger points. So I actually think if we combined the two of these in a certain format, it would be. It sounds like.
I have an idea. I don't know if you all would think that these two go together like this, but how about under the third bullet point, if a member government is increasing a project budget, the member government shall provide an explanation. And then I put the last 3 bullet points under level of detail that are Jim's, starting with the project cost increases 20% or lower, we need a good written description in the memo of the reason of the change, and then the second and third one. Under that bullet, and then, unless you disagree, include all of Jennifer's bullets in the memo to the board, and, but it's up to you.
I like that suggestion. I've got some other comments. Dr. Knoll, you had one, and then Tony.
Yeah. I think we always want to be careful of reading and trying to manage the budget. So I'm interested in what in general we're spending our money on. So if a person in the community says, what about that project, that's where they're funding such and such, I don't think it's appropriate to get too much of a level of detail about the budget. We don't know what you're talking about in a sense. And if there's got to be at least a trust relationship that you're spending money wisely, or we would expect you to come to us and say we need more, or we have to make something that you might hear from the community about. And so I think sometimes boards can micromanage things and cause trouble, and I don't want that to happen. I assume a lot of my colleagues don't either. So,
just 1 second, Tony, and that is, to that degree, is exactly what I don't want to get in the process of doing. We allocate the money, but our job is responsibility to have general oversight of that budget and response to the board as a citizens committee, and so I think that my attempt here was out of respect for the staffs to provide some guidelines so that they don't come in here with a full-blown whole lot of stuff, or just because material cost increased 20% in line with inflation. We don't need a 15-minute briefing and discussion on that.
Right.
So that we don't need to micromanage. We've gone down that road in the past a few times, trying to micromanage, and I don't see that as our role. So, Tony?
we regretted it when we did it. So.
I agree with what you just said. Micromanaging is probably not the right way to go. Kind of keeping that vision of guiding the ship is a little better. And I really like what you said about putting those 3 as like sub-points below the third point there. That's a really good idea. The thing I really wanted to point out here is on the memorandum from Jennifer, those first 4 points really follow from what we got there. Project sponsors shall notify regarding proposed increases to project budgets. You have when, during, if, and if. The last 3 points don't really follow from that. So I really feel we should separate those out and discuss those separately if we want to add those in. Because these are not times when that follow from proposed increases. Now we're talking about priority and the statement of what's going on each month. These are various issues that don't follow from that first point. I agree with Jennifer that fourth point is probably a little controversial. From the city's point of view, we definitely have projects that don't have a specific name, a specific intersection, or something that's coming up, and I don't know that necessarily should be put to the back of the priority list as we're going forward. That prioritization takes place within the city as necessary as projects go forward. So, again, those last 3 points, I would pull out separately from that list of points on the, when we come forward, and talk about them individually.
Would it be agreeable that at this point, we take the first 1, 2, 3, 4 together and say that we put Jim's last 3 under the third point?
Yeah.
And then vote on that separately, and then tackle the last
Last
3 of
points.
Jennifer's either separately or together?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mike, you want to come up and...
Let's hear from the city.
Yeah, I think Jennifer put together pretty good detail. A couple of things I just wanted to comment. One, I still think we as staff need to look at all our projects and see if we can, if anything, do some ballpark adjustment, because her first point about line item transfers, well, this year I came with several line item transfers that were project budget increases. We had a certain amount identified from the ballot language, and as we got through design and or bid, they were a lot higher, and said, hey, I need more money, and I kept rating Pikes Peak. So yes, and what that did is it I pushed it off. So yes, a lot of the line item transfers were budget increases, and I think we need to look at the whole list and get them more to what we think they are, because if we went with Jim's 20, 40, 60 right now, we're going to be in the higher range. Explain, the candidate explanation is going to be, hey, it's an old estimate. But if we could get them closer to what we think they might be, then we can, when we get them in line to actually come to the board for approval, and there are increases, hopefully they're not going to be 40%, and we'll be able to explain, and we should explain in detail.
It'll help us be more efficient for,
Yeah.
for you as well.
Yes. So I think that her first things are things that I think we've kind of done, but we haven't maybe done as clearly as possible. As far as the budget splits, especially on joint projects, I think the administration feels that those splits are appropriate, but I think what I like to do is leave the flexibility between, especially El Paso County and city and staff, is leave that flexibility that as projects come online, that we may split. If we need extra money, how that split comes, we may not do 70-30 for then, but down the line we'll adjust and make everything whole again, because as I'll explain in our budget later, we were able to do some funding adjustments for West Colorado, but that really has some big implications on our projects. Mainly, I put a big one out for 3-4 years, so that's all doable. But I think I like to recommend that we staff be allowed to figure out year to year how we split things, as long as at the end or near the end we just make the budgets and the revenue splits whole as the board directs, which right now the direction is 70-30-ish.
Can I ask real quick? I seem to remember anecdotal evidence that that's been fairly easily done by you guys amongst yourselves. Would that be your opinion, that you've been able to keep the split as equitable as possible, or has
so far the way it's been is the revenues are split 70-30, and that's how it's distributed. I think the Colorado.
Well, I think, like with Woodman, I was thinking because there was some federal money coming in, there was some horse trading that went on. RTA 1 wasn't. There wasn't the split. Kind of was originally the budget estimate. The way it came out was like 67, 32, and I said there was no real. There wasn't any guidance, and then at the end of the project, it was almost 60-40. Is how it just came out. I think on 2, there's been a desire to keep it 70-30, but like I said, and if that's what we need to end up with, that's fine. But I think I'd like to maintain flexibility that we work with the other entities and kind of horse trade year to year to make sure we get everything funded and no one gets too much of a burden, either delayed or whatever, and that at the end of the program that we just come out whole in that being, like I said, if 70-30 is what the board says we need to be, then we'll be there. Yeah.
So that was just, like I said, that's my thought on maybe not getting into too much of micromanaging as long as we have a goal, we know where we want to end up at the end of the program. And also, I agree, we do want to try to finish the name projects. Although, we do have programs that we feel are important, but I think those can be done. Those both can be accomplished.
Okay.
So that's all I have input.
Thank you, Mike. Gene?
Well, I have a couple of questions. Some are for Mike. And I guess the county as well, because it applies to both of them. First, if we're going to trade this 70-30 split on revenues from PPRTA, how's it going to be tracked, and how do we know that at the end of a budget year that it's close to that, and what the adjustments are going to be? And the second question is let's assume that there is an economic downturn for some reason that occurs, and suddenly there is a shortfall in funding, and monies aren't available to make up the difference that has been agreed to prior to the downturn, just as an example.
Well, okay, so as far as tracking it, I think that's pretty easy. Bev keeps track of what revenue comes in, and, and she can see basically she keeps a cumulative track year to year, and she sees who gets what. So if we do some adjustments 1 or 2 years, it'll be, 68-32, and we just know what at the point where we need to make the adjustment to be whole, we'll know what that number is, how much, in one budget year, the city will have to maybe give back an extra $2 million, and so I think that part's easy. Your downturn question, that's, I don't want to talk. Again, it would be, on that case, it would be whatever the revenue that has come in, we need to make that whole. It just might be that the expected revenue is going to be less than what we had projected. But again, we'll be able to adjust the last few years so we get to this needed split. It just might not be as big a number as we had hoped.
I'll just add to the split. I mean, we, the county, want to remain as flexible as possible. We agree with the city that we have worked well together. Hasn't always been easy at times, but I think for all intents and purposes, we both have and all have the same goals, is to finish these projects. So I think, what I'm just putting in there in regards to 70-30 is that we're essentially anticipating, both of us, I think, we're going to keep that until there's a reason to change, and we'll have to agree upon that reason when the time comes. But, if a project's ready to go, I think we're both doing everything we can to make sure that those projects move forward. So to that end, I'm not so concerned about the 70-30. You can include that or not include it, but I think we're pretty much going with that as it is today. In regards to future projects, and if there is a downturn in the economy, I think we're doing what we have been doing. Is that a good example is Mark Scheffel. We went back and rescoped that project. We had to. We adjusted what we were doing in that project, and I think still, even with some of those adjustments, we're still left with a successful project at the end. So I'm doing that in one of my projects right now. On one of the projects that we have, it was way over budget, and to the point where it was beyond, I felt like we could reconcile that with inflationary items. I've cut a scope at this point on one of my projects, and we will be talking to you about that, but we were doing an initial phase so that, we haven't totally cut the scope, but we're going to do an initial phase, and then at some point we may come back as we make sure that there's more money and do a second phase. So I shouldn't say we've cut a scope, but we've done an initial phase so that we can make sure that, we're getting something done on each of these projects everywhere. So I think we've always been successful about working together with the member governments and getting all these projects done, and I don't see any reason why that's going to change.
Yeah, I don't see any, but Scott had his hand up first, and then.
Yeah, my only comment is it sounds like this was, I don't think there's anything that controversial in here, but not all of the member entities have had input or a chance to see this. So I'm wondering if it's appropriate to act on that until all the other entities have had a chance to review this and weigh in on it.
All the entities had an opportunity to see the original proposal, and it was those entities that decided they wanted to come back and get together and come up with their own rebut or their own ideas.
Right, but this, Jennifer said she did this somewhat in a vacuum, and the other entities haven't necessarily had a chance to review her proposal, so I wonder if that should be done before we act on it.
There's no time frame. I mean, we're not.
I would like to see the first 3 bullets of Jennifer's and the first 3 of Jim's either combined or whatever you want it to say, so that we actually can, because we're moving forward, and this has been going on for a few months, and we're going to need to adjust some more capital budgets. And I have a list of the beginning ones and the ones that have been changed, that have gone through different CAC and board meetings. So, but there's no consistency with the way they're approved. So if you could at least approve something with what you'd like to see to get a project budget increased, and leave out possibly the priority of funding, which is the last bullet of Jennifer's and the third to last bullet. And then you can also just decide about this one that's the status summary report on active projects. And that to me seems, pretty informative. So I don't.
Isn't it funding splits in the IGA, right?
Well, the funding split is in the ballot measure for capital, transit, and maintenance, but the funding split isn't in the IGA. It was in the original documentation for the projects in the second A list. So for the renewal projects, they had the split based on, they put what they wanted into their list based on those 70, those percentages, which were the same percentages that are used for the maintenance, and that is in the IGA. The maintenance part's definitely in the IGA.
I had no intentions to get into funds allocations decisions in this. That is a board policy, IGA-related thing. Again, I think my intent here was, in my mind, was to provide some guidelines to the member governments when they're coming in with total project cost increases, so that they came prepared to address our questions based on the level of increase. I mean, it was fairly straightforward. It wasn't trying to change policy. I don't see that they're ground in stone and hard and fast. There are some guidelines that, hey, if you've got a 60% increase in a project, we're going to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, what I would probably do is set forth a proposal for us to either discuss or approve, going along the lines of what Bev put out, is that the first first 3 bullet points, with bullet point number 3 being modified with your final 3, starting with for project cost increases 20% or lower, and then also adding in the, what number is that, 1, 2, 3, 6, which is about the status reports. To put those into a proposal to recommend to the board. I know why. And then some of these other items we can address if need be, address at a later meeting. But this way, we'd at least be able to give kind of a solid idea and guideline going forward.
Dr. O, you had a comment, and then Rev had one. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just see my role on this committee, always have, as having information so I can tell my constituents what happened, not trying to establish what's going to happen necessarily. So I don't think we should be very concerned about anything, but we're given information and we think you're making a mistake, we should say so. On the other hand, once we've been given the information, we owe it to our constituents in this board to explain what's happening when they come. I think sometimes we get feeling like we got to stop this expenditure, or this isn't a good one, and so forth. Those priorities seldom come to us, and that is good, I think. And so I just would remind us, I don't probably need to, but
Rep?
First question is, this reads capital renewal project revisions.
I can't hear you, Rep.
you don't have your two mics for all.
The item on the agenda reads capital renewal project revisions. And yet, at the very beginning, it also read West Colorado Ave. So I guess what I'm saying, first of all, we're talking about all of the projects, not just West Colorado. Somewhere in there I read it. The point is, it does call for recommendation. I would like a clarification from Jennifer. You were unable to get with the city. If that's true, shouldn't their opinion be considered, or is this mutually acceptable with the two major entities?
This is irrespective of Colorado Avenue. This has, this is really in relationship to the discussion that started in September.
This is item 5B. We're only on 5B.
Three-year budget for West Colorado Ave on the agenda.
That's 6B.
Sure hope you can handle this the rest of the way. I got to go.
Yeah, let 5B.
All right, I can't read 5 and 6. I apologize for that.
Oh, no problem.
I believe Mike said that
I said I was taking up too much time here.
Is this life or death?
It-
okay with this now? With what
Have
we
a Merry
discussed,
Christmas, Jim.
Taking out those couple of items.
Yeah, like I said, the reporting and stuff, I'm very okay with. The splits that Jim's proposed, like I said, I think if you adopt them, we're just going to be talking about every project. Like I said, I'd like to, maybe we can go with those splits, but as we adjust our project estimates and we think we're closer in what they're going to be coming in, then maybe we come back and change the limits.
I think that's acceptable. Yeah.
I'm in agreement with that. You can take out those other two bullets. She's going to explain it. Put them in for discussion purposes.
Okay.
Are we wordsmithing this now?
Yes.
You gonna put something together, you gonna word something together?
Or you move?
Luck with that.
Well, that's what I'm asking. We're trying to wordsmith and put forward a recommendation to the board, and we've had all these ideas. Jennifer's just agreed to something else and whatnot, and I don't know what to quote.
I just have them throwing it out.
Throwing it out, all out.
All right, so let's put this together and put this puppy to bed.
That's what it's
Please.
My question was, did Brian make a motion a minute ago or not?
No, that was a
Just a
proposal
okay.
for discussion so that we could actually get a motion together, which is kind of where Red is at.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'm willing to give you a motion.
Okay.
Okay.
The motion is that the wording on how to report information to the committee be comprised of the first three bullets on Jennifer's letter. Start a new fourth bullet that says reporting requirements. Include the three bullets on your presentation that have the 20, 40, 60, or less than 20, 20 to 40, 40% splits. We go to the last page of Jennifer's memo. The first bullet is a reporting requirement. The second bullet is removed for the time being. The third and fourth bullets are reporting requirements. And I think that captures everything that we've discussed.
Do you mean, are you talking about the one that starts priority capital being removed?
Yes. That's the one that Jennifer said was controversial, and we've already had some discussion on that.
Right.
And it may be best to defer that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Rick?
Do you want this to be elevated to be a board policy such that we retype this and put board policy number 26 on the top.
Well, actually, that one can be struck.
I think we should recommend it to the board that it's written policy. That way,
Yes.
they can hash through a little bit and decide if they want
And
to.
we've done our due diligence. Let them make the final decision.
Yeah, it's a recommendation for consideration of an additional policy or something like that. Does that sound reasonable? And I want to make it, I would just like, in terms of discussion, just a second, is that these be guidelines for reporting. They're not hard and fast. Make sure that this is not in stone.
So then we're really not asking for a board policy, because those are in stone.
So well, I'm talking about the numbers that we talked about in here, those, because I think the original.
Oh, well, okay, so maybe though you come back later and you change those numbers, because they're just
That's kinda
too
what- yeah,
low
I would
or
suggest.
whatever.
Okay, all right, okay. Gene? What you want?
Jennifer came over. The last bullet on the back page of her letter is not a reporting guideline, so it does not need to be included.
Right, that's kind of what I.
Okay.
And the second item is that I said reporting requirements. Reporting guidelines is what it really should be, and that's what I really intended to say.
Okay. All right, Rick?
Gene, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to your motion, and it's got to be approved by both you and your second. I guess I seconded it, but she also, whoever seconded it, I approve. Do you? Do you approve? Listening to the
What is it?
friendly amendment.
What is it?
All right. I move that it be stated as Gene has put forth, with the addition that we put forth to the board a recommendation that this become a board policy.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
That's all I added.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Any further discussion, Brian?
call for the question.
I just want to make absolutely sure we know what we're voting on. So, can we just recap? We're doing the first 3 bullet points of Jennifer, okay? Then we're adding Jim's as a separate item below that. The
Under,
last 3 bullets of his presentation.
under reporting
Under
guidelines.
Reporting guidelines, okay? And then on the back page, the
First and third.
first and third bullet points on the back page.
Would be a
Okay.
part of the reporting.
Are part of the reporting guidelines, that's correct.
That's
Okay,
exactly right.
everybody okay with that? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. We're done.
Now, I have a question.
Good.
This is strictly, I amended his.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that.
He amended it. He was okay with it.
Right.
We accepted the
But
friend,
this is strictly procedural.
okay.
Do we have to do something with his amendment?
What?
I mean, his motion?
He changed his motion to conclude yours, and so we voted on it. It's done. Let's move on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine, it's done.
Gavel.
Signy die, you know?
It's snowing, let's go.
Lawyer might disagree, but I think we're in agreement that we agreed with you
The
and that that's the
parliamentarian,
motion.
the parliamentarian in us has said it's time to move on. All right,
Thanks be to
2017
God.
budget update. You going to lead this one off, Bev?
How about if Mike and Jennifer get up for theirs, and then just to let you know, I've incorporated their changes in the budget document that I gave you that I'm going to be giving for next year.
The new draft update that was,
Yeah.
okay.
So they've only got a few changes, so we don't need to go through it.
So Mike Chavez, City Engineering. So basically, we needed to try to make some adjustments to the 17 budget to put $5 million from the city to West Colorado. So the only change, I was able to do that by actually cut $500,000 out of the Woodman Academy over Cottonwood Creek Bridge project with the intent that I'll probably put that money back in with some extra revenues if they come in. And then I took $4.5 million out of Centennial by actually pushing it out to like 2019 or something. So that was bigger issue, but timing-wise, that kind of works. I did leave $500,000 in that project because there are some early action work we want to do. So basically, I cut one project and then push one out a few years to get that $5 million. And that's reflected in the summary. If you look at the Appendix A, you'll just see those numbers have been changed to match.
So let me point out that Appendix A, folks, is only the amount allocated to those projects in 2017. Does not reflect total cost of those projects. So when you're looking at it and you see $500,000 for Centennial Boulevard extension to Fillmore, there's actually $6 million in 2016 for that project. So these numbers in the city's format of this is only the 2017 allocation for that project. Just wanted to make sure you're aware of that.
Can I ask just a kind of a quick off-the-cuff question regarding that actual project?
Which one?
The Centennial Fillmore. Been through there a lot. Folks are having issues adjusting to the new bridge alignment, but that's neither here nor there. It seems like that particular intersection right there, because there's those two lights immediately following the bridge if you're headed west. I think
Chestnut.
Is that Chestnut?
No, no. You talking Chestnut or Centennial?
Centennial. If you're Fillmore, if you're on Fillmore heading up towards Centennial,
Okay.
once you cross the bridge,
Oh, okay, all right.
there's the light, and then there's the second light, and there's not enough gap, and there's a lot of issues. Basically, those intersections are failing. Do you see that the Fillmore Centennial project is going to address any of this?
I think the extension, when it's completed, will help relieve some of the people who are on Fillmore, so it'll help
Okay.
pull some of the traffic off.
All right, does anybody, I've got some questions before I start. I want to make sure everybody else is covered, so has anybody got any questions on the revised city's input? Okay, Mike, I do.
Okay.
And specifically, starting on page 4 with your programs, if you will, not necessarily on any specific project. You actually brought it up that the named projects, and you guys had to push projects out because you took $500,000 away or $4.5 million of a project. And yet, these programs, the 9 various programs that you guys have got, from companion bridge improvements to emergency bridge and all that stuff, they've got, if you look at just 2016, those projects cumulative have like a 14.37% obligation rate in those programs. And yet, and when you look at the carryover from those projects that went from 16 to 17, those 9 projects have got $19.5 million if we approve this 2017 budget in those projects. And yet, you barely obligated $16 million last year. And so the comment, it's your priority, it's your decision. This is a heartburn issue with me, is that you've got to push a project out that's as critical as Centennial, because you cut $4.5 million, but you just added $16 million in additional funds in these projects for a project that's got a 14% obligation rate and a burn rate.
Okay. Okay. And yes, and that was most of my doing. I try not to touch these programs. Real quick, Emergency Bridge Fund, in 2016, we're adding $2.5 million. There's a pretty good chunk in their carryover.
2.3.
But we are looking at going out to bid with the Mark Daveling bridges this month, and that's a very important project. We have some concerns that if we
Those collapsed pipes.
yes, under Mark Daveling.
Okay.
And then again, some of the traffic
For instance, roadway safety traffic ops, you added $1 million, you had 2.2 million, you spent zero.
Yes, and part of that, some of that's going to CDOT. We just haven't finalized the IGA. So that's some carryover. That's to pay CDOT. That was approved, and I'm not sure if it's $1 million or $2 million, but we've been wanting to pay that off, but we just haven't been able to get through an IGA.
So that, I noticed in your 17, your comment that $1 million in 17 is your I-25 Cimarron match to CDOT. So you're saying the 2.2 that you're carrying over is also a CDOT payment, that you're just waiting for an IGA?
I'm not sure if it's the full 2.2, but I know, yes, because I believe we committed 4 years back, and so I.
So that zeroes out.
Yeah, because I'm not sure how many, but I know we've had 1 or 2 years where we agreed to pay CDOT, but we just haven't had the IGA finalized to make that payment. So once that's done, and I think it's close, that carryover will be reduced drastically.
Okay.
And then the other big one is signal upgrades. We just got a lot of signals that need replacing, and we're a little behind because right now there's only one signal contractor that's available. There was 2 or 3, they've gone out of business or whatever. So there's basically one company that's doing all that, and they're working on all this plus CDOT plus capital projects. So we
Well,
just.
I noticed in your signal upgrades, you got several of them up on research, so you better go ask the neighbors if you can upgrade your signals before you do it. So that
Research has become an issue in
All right.
general.
Well,
Anyway, so
we allocate the funds, and the
Mm-hmm.
city makes the priorities, then the board can
Uh-huh.
directly change that. But
So we didn't increase the program, it's just there's some carryover, and this kind of RTA one, the same thing happened. We just had kind of some of these intersections just kind of backed up, and we had a lot of money just built up, but then it kind of busted loose, and we built a lot of them and spent it. So that's kind of what you're seeing now.
I just for my own understanding, as reading through the program specifically, with like 1 or 2, 2, 3 exceptions, they all seem to be just about the same things. There's very little differences between, for instance, intersection improvements, roadway traffic and safety operations, pedestrian transportation, school and neighborhood pedestrian improvements. They all seem to be very similar. They're just, the scopes as they're described seem to be very similar. I was just wondering, I guess for my understanding, why they are separated as they are.
Well, like, real briefly, I know congestion and incident management, that's more of traffic management, software, signal improvement, stuff like that. If you go to roadway safety, that has to do more with physical improvements. Is there guardrail, or do we have some blind spots?
Okay,
So there,
software, hardware.
traffic management versus,
School-specific.
yeah.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
there's some differences.
all right, Joan.
Mike, I just have a sidebar question. Now that Mark Scheffel is getting completed down at my end of the world, I just wondered if there will be any upgrade to the signal at Bradley and Mark Scheffel?
Jennifer, you know anything about that? Is that a county signal or
Because that's a city intersection.
Let me get an answer and see is there a specific issue or?
I'll talk to you later.
Okay,
That's
all right.
fine.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'd have to go and look to make sure. I'm not sure who maintains that signal.
It is a city signal.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, no, that much I know. It's
Okay.
the city, because it's that little part in through there that's city.
correct. They just.
So,
paved
yeah,
that
the timing
intersection.
sequence of that light is a concern for a lot of residents, and that's my question.
Come and see me and I'll talk
Okay.
to traffic about it.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions on the city's portion of the amended budget? All right.
All right, thank you.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County. We just, because of some of those line item transfers that we had made last month in regards to our 2005 to 2004 capital program, we just updated our spreadsheet on page 204. So that's really all we did, is update some of those numbers for the carryover forecast from 2016 to make it more appropriate based upon some of those line item transfers that we had. Pretty simple.
I'd like to say I like your format of the three columns that shows your 17 allocation and your carryover. So thank you for doing that.
Yes, it's very clear.
I'd like clarification. How did you go from a how did you go from a zero budget, Beacon Light Road, from a zero budget, last month we, line item transferred 3.6, round numbers, 3.6 million. Of a budget, you have a budget carryover of $1 million. Quote, the numbers don't make sense to me when I say that you didn't have any, you transferred 3.6, and you're still carrying over the same that you had allocated.
On Beacon Light,
Yes.
I think we had a carryover on that of about $4 million. So we actually reduced that carryover.
I'm not,
Yeah.
just, the numbers didn't make sense. I'm not questioning why you did it, or I just couldn't see how.
So that's where we transferred money out of Colorado Avenue
To Colorado.
to Colorado Avenue.
So you still had some carryover on that total project?
Yes, because there's still some remainder in that project. So that's why I say, that project still has some money in it, so we can move some forward with that, and that's really more dependent on staff availability than really money.
I'm available.
Any other questions for Jennifer? We had no changes to transit, so that should stand from last month, unless somebody's thought of something. In case Brian will come up and tap dance.
Do you want a motion to?
Any changes, Bev, to the
recommend?
administrative side of the budget?
No, and I see that on the agenda, one is a recommendation for approval from the city, and, it is recommendation, I'm looking at B then, for information. So, okay, then we need a recommendation that you approve the changes from the city and county, and that you recommend the 2017 budget for approval.
So moved.
Okay, any seconds? Tom? Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. So that's the city budget. So the next item on the agenda is the three-year, what is it? Oh, three-year budget on West Colorado Avenue. Remember, we had a little bit of discussion last month about seeing a multi-year line item, and Jennifer put that together for us. It's in your memo. She provided it to me. I looked at it, and we conferred, and so the back page of that memo kind of shows you the breakout of the budget by fiscal year and generally the various steps of the projects. So,
Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County. This was just for information in response to what you asked for. Just and Dennis, one of my staff members, very nicely put this together. And I know it's small, but essentially it just contains, and this was just for information purposes. You guys had mentioned that you had wanted this, and nothing really to. We're not asking for a recommendation here. Just providing the information that you asked us to do. So on the right side, or sorry, the left side, and the budget in the memo just kind of summarizes this, but we just looked at, and this is information I provided you last month, the project forecasts, all the different funding sources, and then it shows that deficit, which we talked about last month, 11.9, which we've worked with the city and Manitou Springs and show how we're allocating those for the additional years. So we appreciate the city working with us and allocating, as we had discussed, the $5 million for 2017 additionally, and we will continue to work with them on this project. So this just shows the year encumbered, and then the year the funding is available, showing that essentially we're especially with the $5 million that the city is budgeting for 2017, we're good to go.
Dennis got a little overzealous with his dollar signs on
Oh,
it.
yeah, 2016.
Yeah, well,
2000 to 16, yeah. Any
okay, I
questions?
see what you mean.
Thank you, County Jennifer Tell. Thank Dennis.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
that. Any questions? All right. All right, good. Next item, capital maintenance and public transportation contract, City of Colorado Springs.
Mike Chavez, City Engineering. First thing that we have was, we have a list of several contract renewals. These were contracts that were RFP'd or bid with renewal clauses, and we are just looking to renew them. Some of them have a dollar figure that we think we're going to target, and others we just want to renew, and we will use them as needed. These, I think for the most part, have a $200,000 limit RTA with a $2 or $3 million max. So those task orders will come to Rick, and he'll keep an eye on things.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
I'm going to just guess. It'd be the last 5 line items on Appendix A. Yeah. Can you say stormwater inside of the roadway right-of-way for clarification?
Yeah, we can do that. And again, what it would be is, we have certain contractors who have bid stormwater type of work, and they've got prices, and they're good.
Understand.
So if we need somebody to do some more right-of-way related work, we'll use them. So I can do that.
And I got a question on the column of your sheet that said extensions. Is that, how many, is that?
This is the third extension we're
Okay,
exercising.
so that is the current extension and not what was contracted. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, very good. Rev,
Yeah, that's it.
that's it?
Okay.
Any other questions for Mike on these?
On that one.
And you had a maintenance one?
Yes, and actually, I think there was a walk-on that we distributed to. So the next one is a supply contract for slag for the street or operations division. And basically, I think the memo, it says that they were the only one who could really supply what we're specifying. And
Black Rock?
yes, so this is steel slag for the chip seal, and that's a much better product than any aggregate that we've been able to get. And so that's the reason why we're going with them. And if there's any more specific question on that, I'll have to have.
Is that company out of Pueblo that uses steel slag? Okay.
I do have a quick question on that. Just with regard to tire wear, with the steel slag, I'm not as familiar with the performance of that product as I am like the older chip seal that we used, the aggregate. Can you enlighten me a little bit?
I can tell you that the LA abrasion is the same for the slag aggregate as it is for the aggregate that was used in probably the 15-plus years ahead of that.
Okay.
So that was a material that was hauled out of Morrison, Colorado.
Right.
Yeah. And so they're both about a 25 on your LA abrasion. So it would be the same. As far as telling you tire wear, I couldn't. I would hope it'd be the same based on
The
that.
abrasion figure is perfect. That's all I need to know. Thanks.
Okay.
Is this the same company that couldn't fulfill the contract last year?
Sir, this is a company that took over that operation in Pueblo just for that, just for the reason. Same, yes, sir, it is.
Any other questions for the city on these?
Then The last one I had is it's a change order to the design contract for the North Chestnut Bridge project. HDR had a task order for design services during construction, and we had an original estimate of about $71,000. I said that they just kind of put together what they thought it might cost, but as we finished the project, there were some additional costs, work that came up, a little bit extra, just work of the design, their original scope of work, they had more hours, but then there was some FEMA revisions, since we changed the bridge size. We had to do a letter of map revision, and then there were some design changes during the actual construction, and then as-builting it, and some legal descriptions. So that's for $29,000 and change.
Any other questions for Mike on those change orders?
Move approval.
We have a motion to
Second.
approve. Jean Bray.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
All right, thank you.
County.
We have one contract item for your recommendation today, and that is related to the Mark Shuffle South project. It's a construction contract amendment to Wildcat Construction Company in the amount of $427,000 approximately. But essentially, we found an issue, an error in the amount of kiln dust that was recommended in the original design. We are doing a subgrade strengthening so that we wouldn't have to export and import all new subgrades. So instead, we're using the in-place soil, treating it with kiln dust, similar to what we did on Mark Shuffle North, where we did subgrade, but that was actually with concrete. So essentially, saves money, but we found an error in the depth. Originally, we had 6 inches, and we needed to revise it to 14 inches. So to achieve that in the most cost-effective, the contractor agreed to continue with the same price for the actual kiln dust, but also because we have to mix it in deeper, then there's an additional cost to that. So we have an additional small cost, not small, but an additional cost that wasn't in the original because they had assumed the 6 inches for mixing that in. Now they had to do a 4, so it's an incremental cost. So essentially that comes out to $427,000. We have that in the overall project budget for Mark Shuffle. If you remember, last month we transferred $800,000 to the project from other projects. So with this, don't expect any problems with our asphalt, of which if we hadn't made the change, then we would have failures in the subgrade. So
Move to approve.
Second.
Jean Bray. Discussion?
Yeah, just real quick. The difference in the depth is fairly substantial. Could you elaborate a little bit more on why?
just the engineer made an error in regards to the coefficient that they used. So we found that area. So we would have had this cost no matter what. It just were included in the back end. So we could go against the engineer for errors and omissions. It just really makes sense to move on, and that would cost a lot of money to go after them. I mean, we would have had this depth anyway.
Okay.
All right, any questions for
Better
Jennifer?
now than later.
Yeah.
Exactly. I can say you a couple of neighborhoods where I wish they had gone a little deeper. All right, thank you, Jennifer. Member governments and other reports. Transit services.
We haven't voted on it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, is it a recommendation? Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, we had a first and a second.
Recommendation, any further discussion on the counties? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, sorry. Where's Corey's report? Oh, next, okay. Hi, Brian.
Good afternoon.
Brian Vituli, City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metro Transit, with your annual transit report for the month of October. For our fixed route services, we had a slight increase of just below 1% for October of this year, comparing it to October of 2015. And looking at the chart at the bottom of that page, we look to be well on track to be above 2015's ridership. And last year, as you remember, was the first time since 2009 that we had over 3 million trips. So we're trending very good for 2016 also. For our ADA paratransit service, we had a less than 1% decrease over that same time frame. And for our van pool services, we continue to trend downward for ridership. Over the last several months, we had increases at the beginning of this year, and every month since then, we've been decreasing ridership. And
Brian, are the other van pools in the area, I see more and more and different names. So is that a competition thing, you think, maybe?
It could be. I think it's a little bit of that, and it's a little bit of people moving around from jobs and van pools just disintegrating because hours change. Gas is very, very inexpensive. And, the January and February increases that we saw at the beginning of this year, we're hoping as we're getting into the winter months that the ridership for our van pools will pick up, because it seems to go better in the wintertime when winter travel is worse and people like to group together. So we'll see.
Body warm.
Yeah, right.
And I have to apologize, I was out for a couple of meetings. You guys were working on a project for Schriever.
Right.
Is there any time?
Any movement? Well, we heard, this was several months ago when I said that we had some positive leads about getting a van pool for Schriever, and that hasn't materialized, but we just recently, the last 2 weeks, we got another, some more interest from Peterson to start one. So we're hoping that works out. And, and that seems to be, there's no housing on Schriever, but airmen are taking, or the need is for airmen to go from Peterson to Schriever. So it's, hopefully something will work out there. So. And project update, the downtown transit station relocation study. We received a draft report of that, and I believe I mentioned the last month or last 2 months that this is going to transition now into a little bit more work in 2017, probably starting mid-month next month in January through June. There's going to be a mayor-appointed steering committee that's going to be looking at bringing those 3 recommended sites down to 1 recommended site that we move forward on for construction. So haven't really heard any update from the mayor's office. The mayor has a list of candidates for the steering committee, and I believe he'll be reaching out and making those contacts and those invitations to all the steering committee members very soon, especially since this is going to start like a month from now. So hopefully we'll hear some more on that. And that's all I have. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Brian? Thanks, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Corey Farkas, update on 2C.
Good afternoon, everybody. Corey Farkas, City of Colorado Springs, Public Works Operations and Maintenance Division. We actually we had that put together. That's half of our challenge coin. I had challenge coins made for the division. So.
That's what Mark Sheffel used to look like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pre-alignment. There you go. So I was asked to come in and give an update on how we did this year on 2C. I wanted to kind of go a step further and just give some numbers, end-of-year numbers, on our PPRTA programs, both in-house and contracted programs as well as our CIP paving program, and just kind of give you a general aspect of what we were able to do this year. So let's see, here we go. So our in-house operations for our PPRTA resurfacing, our digouts, we were able to place 9,480 tons of asphalt in our digout program for the in-house crews this year. It's a great program that kind of takes larger clusters of potholes, if you will, and mitigates those through digging them out, hence the name. So our crack seal program for our in-house folks, we covered 186 lane miles, or the equivalent of, with that program this year. Our main program is in the contracted side, but we want to maintain the operation in our in-house side so that we can hit some strategic areas as needed. Potholes, we surpassed last year's numbers with our potholes with 61,298 year-to-date. Obviously not done yet. We'll continue through the end of the year, but that has surpassed last year's number. And then our maintenance paving or mechanized patching, whatever you want to call it, it's the big brother to the dig-out program. We were able to actually place 18,421 tons of asphalt with that program. Again, it's been a very beneficial program over the last several years where we strategically go in and take the worst of the worst sections of a street and pave those over so that we can try to get extra years out of a street prior to a program like 2C getting there. And then our PPRTA markings, this is our signs and marking shops. Crosswalks and legends, 112,642 square feet of legends that we were able to put down on the ground this year. Our paint and long line contract, this is a contractor that comes in. They were able to cover 768.3 miles of roadway with our long lines. And then our sign maintenance and install, we either installed or maintained 9,421 signs this year with our signs and marking shop.
Your X-Walks and Legends, are those the ones that are put down in the heat? They actually are?
Yes. Yeah.
I have two places I'm going to find them again where they were put down in less than 3 weeks. They were bad.
And sometimes that happens with the materials that come in.
I understand. Basically, if you knew about it, you could figure out what you have to do about the situation.
Perfect.
But you're not going to find out if somebody doesn't tell you.
I appreciate that. So our contracted program side of the house on our PPRTA, our contracted dig out, this is the contractor that goes out in front of our chip seal operation. They were able to place 4,858 tons of asphalt. Our contracted crack seal, 408.65 lane miles out of our contractor this year. Those guys were straight moving. And our chip seal, we were able to chip seal 93.97, almost 94 lane miles of roadway this year. You'll notice that probably our biggest stretch of roadway was Academy from roughly Maysland all the way up to I-25. We actually had quite a few citizens call in and say thank you for the paving that you guys did out there. So A1 Chip Steel did a fantastic job on that, and we got quite a few phone calls on that one. Yes.
I've noticed that after the chip seal, ruts begin to form.
The ruts have always been there.
They just filled in the existing ruts.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem with if you go into snow removal, and my blood pressure goes up every time I see the flakes fly. As we're blading over that roadway is not perfectly level. There's deficiencies within that roadway, but that blade is typically straight and true and just goes right over top of it. So a lot of people think that, hey, you plow this roadway, it should be clean. Well, those dips, that's where the snow sits.
The one observation, that was a great job. They did it fairly quickly. The one observation I found on Academy was that the truck laying the gravel down was quite a distance ahead of the roller that was compacting it afterwards, and there was a lot of chips and cracks and rocks thrown up on stuff, but people were also following each other too close too.
Right, and that's common with the 3/8 chip. We also use a 1/4-inch chip. We don't have that as much with the 1/4-inch chip, but again, with Academy being Academy, we wanted to put a little more robust rock on there.
Good job, though.
And then our PPRTA paving, we did a small amount of paving with PPRTA funds this year. As you can see, just 4.55 lane miles. But this was an experimental section that we did. We did a couple of roads out near Springs Ranch to try to fix or figure out how to fix the wide crack problem. We're still trying to deal with that. And we used an experimental asphalt as an interlayer with that. So we went ahead and did a leveling course. Put this 1-inch mat of this experimental asphalt down, and then did our riding course on top of that with HMA. It's going to take us at least a year. This weather is actually going to help us out to see if that will work or not. But again, it's a nationwide problem that nobody's been able to figure out. So if we can actually figure out how to fix it, we might get our name in the paper or something.
You're talking about that shrinking asphalt where it's
Yes, that wide crack problem. It's predominant on the east side of town, but it's really anything that was paved from late 90s, probably late 90s on.
So that the Austin Bluffs Bridge on the westbound lane where you had wide cracks like this, and on Corporate Center and some of the others, but the Austin Bluffs at one section, I mean, the cracks were this wide and they were all the way down to the surface. So is that an example of where that stuff just leaking out?
Yep.
I-25 typically. Is that the same on Constitution, east of Powers or west of Powers?
I don't know. I think Constitution west of Powers is just a pretty darn old pavement that deteriorated. If you go to any of the, and it's not just on the roadways, if you go to any of the shopping centers off of Powers, right there by the Target, all of them, they're all experiencing the wide crack issues, where some of them I can put my foot in, and it's an 8-inch pavement, 8-inch thick pavement. I can put my foot all the way through it. And nobody's been able to figure out. You would think that at the end of a roadway there would be this huge wrinkle of asphalt with it moving this way, but there's not. It's actually shrinking. So it's a major issue. We're hoping with this highly polymerized special asphalt. Part of me is hoping that we don't. That it's not a fix because it is very expensive. This came out to about $292 a ton, as opposed to about $92 to $95 a ton for HMA.
Have they tried using, one of the things, we've got an experimental tire tread, we've got several different percentage-wise, the tire treads, or the tire rubberized asphalt. Have they tried maybe using that to fill a gap? Because instead of the polymer, which is even more expensive.
We can't, well, actually, the tire rubber, in order for you to use the tire rubber asphalt, you have to have an asphalt company, let's just take one of them, Martin Marietta, would have to shut down operations for a day. They would have to go ahead and get their plant ready for this specialized oil that's coming down with the tire rubber in it. They would have to batch it. They would have to serve us, the only client, for the day, and then they have to shut down the next day to clean all of their equipment. So when you start putting all that together, it makes it extremely expensive and not as efficient. Number one. Number two, there's no oil companies in the general region that supply that. It's coming out of Texas. I don't know if they're in Oklahoma yet, but if you don't time it just right, and if you have any kind of weather and it throws you off, you've got, a $5,000 tanker of oil sitting there and it's ruined. So that's a very difficult, at this point in time, until they start bringing it out of Denver, it's a very difficult material to work with.
Well, I hope you get the wide crack thing problem solved, because as a motorcycle rider, it's scary as hell.
Oh, it is scary, and trust me, it's really tough when I get moms calling me saying, "Hey, my little kid just caught their tire in a wide crack, and I'm taking them to the hospital." I mean, that's a tough call to take for our folks. So we're trying. We've actually been experimenting for the last 4 years. nothing we've done has worked so far. So we are continuing to try that. We did with our maintenance paving program also do another experiment down at Soaring Eagles with a glass grid interlayer to see if that works. So we have 2 experiments that are out there right now. PPRTA concrete for sidewalk, we were able to put down 54,759 square feet of sidewalk, 34,908 lineal feet of curb and gutter, 125 new ped ramps, 47 retro ramps, and 92 cross pans with PPRTA funds this year.
Hey, Corey, before you go much further, what is the cost with the glass grid per ton?
Oh,
Comparison, do you remember?
I would have to get you a number.
That's
I'd have to get you a number on that. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Less?
Less, yes. Far less than, however, I do have a video. I couldn't quite find it. I have a video of John Clack from the county when we were taking a look at this asphalt. It looked like a big candy bar of this asphalt, and this asphalt was a year old. It had been in this gentleman's trunk for a year, and he's literally bending it like taffy in this video, and it's dense. I couldn't put my thumbnail through it whatsoever. Yet it had that kind of elasticity. So highly polymerized. They use crusher fines for the aggregate, so a very small aggregate. We'll see what it does. Whoa. Okay, so contracted programs, 2C and CIP. So our 2C paving, we were able to do 229 and a half lane miles this year. That's 182,949 tons of asphalt. Our original goal for 2C for the first year was 208, so we obviously exceeded that. We did that with a truncated season with procurement and everything. We wanted to get hopefully started in April. We didn't get started till May 28th, so almost June. And we were still able to bring everything in under budget. We were under budget this year. We actually delivered more lane miles and did it with 2 less months of paving. So kudos to everybody, the contractors, everybody who put that together and made it work. CIP paving, we were able to do capital improvement. So we have a maintenance of effort that we have to keep up with 2C. We were able to exceed that maintenance of effort this year, and in doing so, we were able to do 13.3 lane miles of paving, of additional paving. 2C concrete, our sidewalk, 212,613 square feet of sidewalk, 99,290 lineal feet of curb and gutter. New ped ramps, 227. Retro ped ramps, 320. And almost 92 cross pans. I don't know how you get a .37, but that's how it was reported. So I wanted to show you guys a few maps. This first map, let's see if it goes or if I have to. Come on. There it goes. It just takes a while. Okay, so these are straight off of our website. This is our 2016 Public Works Operations and Maintenance map that we put together. This is not all of our work. These are our major programs. So there is some CIP paving, our 2C funded paving. PPRTA funded, our mechanized patching is on here, chip seal is on here, and the little bit of paving that we did, and also our crack seal. So you can kind of, this is an interactive map. You can see this is everything citywide that we were able to do this year. If you were to go ahead and zoom in, you'll see that you can go off the key over here, off the legend, and figure out exactly what was done, but also you can actually click on one of these, and it'll tell you that this was our maintenance paving, and it'll give you the street, the to and the from, and And the functional classification, it was a minor arterial. Over here we had, this was 2C paving on Rock Rimmon Boulevard, again, minor arterial. So you can kind of go on here at on our website and see all of the different programs. Everything you see in color are streets that we touched with maintenance of some kind this year. So you can see how what kind of an impact that we did citywide in 2016. So this next map, yeah, that one came up quicker. Okay, so what you're looking at right here, this is our proposed 2017 2C funded paving list mapped out for next year. And again, you can kind of zoom into to some different areas and see exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be taking Centennial all the way north, Vindicator, Delmonico, section of, I think that's Mark Dabbling right there. So again, you can scroll out, you can come down south and see all the work that we're going to be doing down south.
That section of Mark Dabbling needs it bad.
Yeah, it does.
Corporate center too.
So again, this is the map and this is the list. This list and this map are on our website. You can check them out there. But this is a pretty labor intensive to get to this point with all of the coordination that we have to do with all the stakeholders, most notably Colorado Springs Utilities. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. Just from looking over the maps, there, I'm just kind of wondering how the paving is getting prioritized.
The paving is getting prioritized by all of the input from the stakeholders. Okay, so we had all of our paving prioritized when we put this list together initially. Okay, it looks nothing like what we had put together initially. So streets that we would need, we really need done now. Some of them got pushed out to out years because Colorado Springs Utilities, their infrastructure underneath the road is exorbitant in what they had. Example, Delmonico. They're replacing 3 miles of water main under Delmonico. Delmonico is not 3 miles long necessarily, but there's 3 miles of water main underneath it. So it was a huge project. We were supposed to do it last year, and they said, we don't have the funding to do this. Let's do this street instead. And so Delmonico gets pushed. We just had a meeting with them this morning where we were kind of, again, we call it horse trading, trying to horse trade, say, hey, these are the streets we'd like to pave. And they'll go through it and say, yeah, we can do these, we can do these, we can do these, working off of their budgets. And then they'll say, yeah, these ones are far too expensive. We won't be able to fit those in with all of these other ones. We'll have to kick those to next year. How about you do these ones instead? Because they're cheap for us to do, CSU.
What about ones where the CSU infrastructure has already been replaced and has literally torn up the roads? They shouldn't need to go in and replace anything. Is that a good understanding?
Correct. Are you thinking of something in particular?
Well, one of the things that's been pointed out to me is we were just discussing that the eastern area of town is they've experienced some significant issues with the roadways. Just happens to be the same area I live in, so I drive them all the time. And there's one specific neighborhood I'll discuss with you afterwards, but that particular area is of concern because the roads are degrading very quickly, and
Sure.
there's been a lot of utility work.
Are we talking residential roadways?
Yeah.
That's why. So when we put together our initial list, we knew that 2C was going to be a 5-year program, potentially longer. We don't know that. It's going to have to go to the voters, whether it's going to be a longer program or not. But this one had a 5-year sunset on it. So we want to do the most amount of good for the most citizens in that first 5 years. So we targeted arterials and collectors. There's very, very few residential roadways in 2C at the moment. So that might be another factor.
Well, one of them, like I said, I'll talk to you about it because one of them is technically a collector.
Okay.
It's one of those that kind of gets neglected down near in the Galley area.
Okay.
But
Okay. Yeah.
Quick question.
I'm not sure I understand some of the prioritization a little bit. The one that is immediately coming to mind for me, again, because I drive it all the time, is Austin Bluffs just east of Union, between Union and Academy. All brand-new roadway. I mean, they took a really long time to get it done last year. And now, again, just in the past week, have torn it up.
We had some warranty issues.
Yeah, that's,
What's going on?
Warranty issues that they were fixing.
Okay. Well, after they were done, it certainly is nowhere near as smooth as it was before they did it, so I don't know what's going on there.
We'll have to keep an eye on it. They just did it this week or last week,
Yeah.
and we'll have to kind of see what happens over the winter and revisit it. We're trying to get these questions answered earlier in the summer when it's better weather.
I'm wondering on the allocation of the funds.
that's not a 2C.
Oh, it's not.
No, that's an engineering project.
RTA, yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Have you found that you've kind of hit the capacity of asphalt
No.
in this region? Have you not maxed out the
No.
contracting capabilities to put down asphalt yet?
No, we put the challenge out there to both concrete contractors and asphalt contractors alike. Martin Marietta anteed up this year when I think initially they kind of took it for granted just a little bit, and we kept telling them, hey, you're not going to hit our deadlines if you don't do something here quickly. The next thing we knew, there was two milling crews and 3 paving crews on the ground just for that one contractor, just for our work. They were also simultaneously doing their other work as well. Schmidt, we had a lot of the same. They were doing county work, they were doing Fort Carson work, they were doing 2C work all at the same time. So, no, I don't think, as far as capacity for producing the asphalt, not even close. Our longest pole in this tent is labor. It's the human resource. And we knew there was going to be a ramp-up period, and they are continuing to ramp up, so much so that we're having to tell them, whoa, okay, we didn't think you were going to be able to ramp up this quickly and this much, so how about you just kind of stay steady for a while, and specifically with our concrete contractors.
Okay.
All right. Some gee-whiz totals. Asphalt total that we were able to put on the ground this year, 230,716.5 tons of asphalt that we were able to place. That's through all of our programs, PPRTA, CIP, and 2C. Our crack seal, we were able to put effect and maintain 594, almost 595 lane miles. If you compare that to the lane miles we got, 59 lane miles that we got in 2014, it's a dramatic jump, and that was something that when I came to the division, crack seal is a very inexpensive insurance policy for your roadways. It's changing the oil in your car. It's the preventative maintenance, and we have to maintain that if we want these new roads that we're putting down to continue on for years to come. So we've dramatically increased our crack seal. Total concrete, 16,215, almost 216 total cubic yards placed. And then pedestrian ramps, I'm pretty proud of this one. 719 pedestrian ramps that were either retrofitted or new built this year. So again, really contributing to our ADA community. And then I just wanted to put this on there because I thought it was really cool information. So as our in-house crew is out there doing, whether it's dig-outs or maintenance paving, whatever we're doing, we're milling up asphalt, and we have to store this asphalt somewhere, right? Or we have to pay to get rid of it if we don't have the storage capacity. At the same time,
You would store it in order to recycle it?
to recycle it at some point, yeah. Use it in alleys, but we only have so much capacity, right? And then once we reach that capacity in our yard, then we have to pay to get rid of it. So then we also have our sweeping program that produces a lot of debris, right? Obviously, sweeping up everything off of the road. And once that debris is on the road and swept up, it's considered a profiled waste. It picks up brake dust, oils, things of that nature. It's not a hazardous waste, but it is profiled, and it's very expensive to get rid of. So we were able to get with the Fountain landfill and do a barter program because we have an excess of millings, because we keep a stash for alleys and things of that nature that we need, and the rest of it is excess. We were able to strike a deal with them where they would let us deliver a load of debris, which is expensive to get rid of, for free if we also deliver a load of millings, because they use it for their cover in the landfill and for their roads, building their roads. So we found a way to take all of our sweepings from the streets and get rid of them for essentially for free. To the tune of about a $230,000 savings. That's what we would have paid to get rid of our debris this year that we swept up off the streets. But instead, we had a $0 line item. So, and that was it. Questions?
Corey,
Yes, sir.
will you put out an electronic version of that and forward it to us through Rick?
This?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I can send that
You
to
put a
you.
lot of numbers up, and I saw them, and I said, oh, no, I'm not going to make notes. But I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
How many rolls of toilet paper did you use in the crack seal program?
I hate the toilet paper thing, but it seems to be what contractors are wanting to do anymore. So I have no idea. There's various ways to keep crack seal material off of quarter panels on vehicles. At the rate that some of these contractors move, they can't let that crack seal cool enough to just leave it. You can put sand down, you can put toilet paper on top of it. There's different materials, release materials that you can put on it, but of course they get expensive, so they don't want to pay for those. And apparently they can get one-ply toilet paper fairly cheap. So
The first time I saw it was in North Dakota. You're riding down a highway, and all of a sudden you see these white stripes going across the road, and you wonder what in the world it is.
yeah, they get biodegradable toilet paper and throw it right down on the crack seal. Keeps it off your tires and off your car.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They just got a stick with a little L thing on it, and they just roll it along the crack right over top of the tar. It's crazy.
Any other questions?
Any questions? That's great. I thank you for the update. I appreciate
Absolutely, my pleasure. My pleasure.
I was glad to know that it's going to use, and again, this is good information for us to be able to differentiate what you're doing versus what we're doing.
Absolutely, and I can come back after every season and give a similar. That way, you guys have all the numbers that you need and see where our maintenance dollars are going and all the good that we're doing. So,
Great. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Good job.
All right, quarterly reports from member governments. Rick, is that you? Oh, wait a minute, do we have the property acquisition, sorry, Colorado Springs monthly change order property acquisition report. You got one change order. Centennial Garden of the Gods.
Yes, Mike Chavez, City Engineering. Yes, we had to change the pavement section of Centennial in that first segment due to the shallow utilities. So we came up with a new section and are using a geogrid. So the cost of swapping one section or another, there was a little bit of an increase, but I think we'll get something that'll work, and then was put CSU at ease.
Is that first section north of Garden of the Gods?
Yes.
Centennial? You had with all those turn lanes and all that?
Yes, we were going to go with about a 2-foot total dig out, but that got us real close to 150-pound pressure gas lines, and CSU said they were a little uncomfortable running, so we came up with a different section, and it's using a geogrid, and so I think we found a solution on that one.
Any questions for Mike on the change order? Thank you, Mike. South. Mr. Rick.
Okay. Good afternoon, Rick Sonnenberg, Pikes Peak RTA Program and Contracts Manager. We have the quarterly reports from the member governments, and I'll take any questions. This is just information only. Yes, sir.
8D, I'm going to make sure I'm on right.
8D, yes.
Manitou Springs has a...
And they're here.
They are, good. Manitou Avenue, West End Drainage Improvement Project. What are the drainage? What is the drainage project?
That's one of their capital projects. That you want a description?
Yeah. I just don't want it to be a...
So this is the fifth phase in street improvement project for Manitou Avenue. The street improvement project started by the City Hall of Manitou Springs, and are now this phase will be from the Serpentine roundabout to the Ruxton roundabout, and it's adding medians, curb, gutter, sidewalk, and storm drain in the street right of way.
Okay, that's all right. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that item?
I had another Manitou question, but it doesn't have anything to do with the project, but what did you guys decide on the shuttle parking area that, and the building, and are they still debating what to do with that?
Yes, to answer your question, it's still, we had an environmental study completed that indicated that there was some contaminants in that structure. There was a consulting team hired that identified 4 different alternatives, which ranged from full demolition of the structure to salvaging historic aspects. So that there is a citizens group that's being put together to make recommendations to City Council on how to proceed with that transit center.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I saw your description in there, but I just wanted to see what the status was. Thanks.
You bet.
Any other questions on the quarter reports? Good information in this document. A lot of work goes into it, so. The parking, the building, we help contribute money for the shuttle bus parking in that parking lot.
300,000.
Yeah, 300,000, right. All right, administrative actions and reports. Reports of recent board actions.
Information item, the memo's in your packet. I'll be glad to take any questions you might have.
Next.
Okay, 9B is appointment and reappointment process for the Citizens Advisory Committee. The memo's in your packet. An update is that the board subcommittee that reviews applications for at-large and at-large alternate applications met on Monday of this week and developed a recommendation that's going to go into the board packet tomorrow that they will consider next Wednesday, the 14th. And here's the subcommittee's recommendation to the full board. Jim Godfrey to be reappointed as an at-large regular. Jean Bray to be promoted from an at-large alternate to Carla's at-large regular seat, which opens up Jean's alternate seat, which has a year to go. Rick Hoover would get Jean's last year, second year on his alternate for 2017, and Tom Rogers to be reappointed for his at-large alternate seat. So those are the 4, and that completes their recommendation. Did I miss anything?
The chess game continues.
So Rick found a way to get back in.
Yes.
Yeah, there's
Several ways.
there's very creative.
And Reb has been appointed to come back in January from Green Mountain Falls. Pardon me?
Have you gotten the written?
No, but Bethany's going to get me something. She has some minutes, access to their minutes. And Joan, who had to leave early today, is going to be coming back in January from the town of Rama.
Just to give you guys a heads up, the act will still be represented here.
Yeah.
Well, I've already got my replacement, don't I?
So, yeah, we'll need to, so, yeah, we'll be getting 2 new HAC members to replace Joan and Reb.
But you're not getting rid of us.
Okay. Election of officers.
Just a reminder that your bylaws call for the CAC to select its 3 officers, chair, first vice chair, and second vice chair at your January meeting, so that'll be towards the top of the agenda, as it has been for these many years.
All right, any other agenda topics for next meeting? Thank you. Don?
Back some time ago, we talked about a procedural issue of always having the agenda item put on any walk-ons. And we had 2 walk-ons today that didn't have agenda items written on what they were, what they related to. The other thing is that when we are looking at these documents, if we're looking deep into a document, it's helpful if everybody would reference what page they're looking at when they're discussing these things, so that we can all be looking at the same thing. And I would recommend in the future that when we have issues like what you had and what Jennifer had, that instead of using bullets, we number the sub-paragraphs so we can say include 1, 5, and 8, rather than it's the second and the fourth bullet.
Good point.
Kind of thing.
Good point. Okay.
So, that's it.
Okay. Any driving issues for next month agenda? Communications, members of the committee?
I just wanted to, and I'm sorry I wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting, but I think it's appropriate that we take a moment just to recognize what day this is. It's the 75th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor and the loss of almost 3,000 lives at the beginning of World War II. And there's currently 5 members from the USS Arizona that left alive. 4 of them are attending ceremonies today. So I just wanted to kind of make sure that that was mentioned for the record, and we all kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah. Tom?
Just a point of interest, the times I've been, I had a customer in Hawaii, so I'd go frequently. 95% Japanese on the ships at Pearl Harbor, or, tourists. Not many Americans.
I lived there 3 years, and a very short story, guys. Pearl Harbor and Hickam Air Force Base, there's a gate you can go between the two. And the Pearl Base had Popeye's chicken. I used to go over there once in a while to get something to eat. And the road you go down, you come out on the first set of piers. As you're riding down this road, I had to pull over because there was a Japanese naval warship pulled up to the dock within about 200 yards of the Arizona. And the irony of that, and knowing how steeped in tradition the Japanese are in their training and history and stuff, the irony of seeing a Japanese warship docked within sight and a few hundred yards of the Arizona was, it took my breath. I had to kind of pull over and think about that. And you're right, the majority of the tourists that go to the Arizona are Japanese. It's amazing. But
when I was at the memorial a couple of years ago, I noted that same thing. I actually have a picture from the Arizona to the Missouri, and there's a couple of Japanese tourists literally right in the corner of the picture. I learned from a friend of mine in the Navy today that it's traditional when battleships or ships with guns are parked, docked anywhere in the Pearl Harbor area, that the guns are always pointed out to sea. And the Missouri is actually straight down from where the Arizona is docked, and its guns are pointed inland over the Arizona. And the naval tradition, the history and the belief behind that is, because she was built to avenge Pearl Harbor, her guns are overwatching her ship, former shipmates. So it's kind of gets you choked up.
I was at Hickam when they filmed the movie, and they had the aircraft shaped like that, and the Hickam Air Force Base, the headquarters, was the old barracks, and there's still, as the steps that you go up, there's still ricochet bullet shots in those steps, and there are pockmarks in the wall around the thing. And my office was on the Pearl Harbor side, and I'll tell you, it was another eerie moment when you're sitting there and those aircraft painted like Japanese Zeros are buzzing up over the base and sweeping down where you can just watch them and you hear them. And there was quite, despite they did a public relations campaign for months and months and months about it, but there were some older people that lived in the old Pearl Harbor, Pearl City area that when those guys started sweeping down over the bay, ran to the back of their house where they did, at the time when it all started. But and being on Ford Island and out there and seeing some of that stuff that they were doing was it was very interesting. So, but a lot of history there. Well, thanks, Brian, for bringing it
There was
up.
a little show on television discussing the history, implied strongly, without having any documents, that we knew about that attack coming, but the president wanted us to get into the war, and he let it occur, basically, without informing our people, so that they would attack successfully, Japanese would attack successfully, and we would have a war.
I hard time believe that.
That's all I can
That's
tell you.
one of those conspiracy theory people.
The warnings, though, that were sent could have been a lot clearer. That's for sure.
You ready to go?
Yeah. I wish everybody a very happy, safe holiday season. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And I'll see you January the 4th. Hopefully, all of you.
Oh, the new year, that's right.
Can I mention something, Jim?
Yes, Jennifer.
Just want to mention that we are having a ceremonial groundbreaking for Colorado Avenue on Monday, the 12th. I think it's at the Garden of the Gods RV Resort at 11:30 or 12 or 11. You all should have at least gotten an email at this point on that. So, and there'll be updated email out with updated information.
With a weather prediction?
Left that piece of paper on the table.
With a weather prediction? Some of us are...
Anybody else?
40, cold, so wear warm and enjoy everybody's company.
Like Baptist Road.
Thanks, guys. And gals.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. She come from something else.
Yeah, she's